story that dipped back into Savannah's history, prompting questions about whether Revolutionary War hero General Casimir Pulaski was intersex. Last month, we introduced you to several people, including a Georgia Southern University professor, who said 2 decades of research led to production of a documentary that found that Pulaski may have been born with male and female sex organs. Now another unexpected part of this story. The city of Savannah says any DNA testing of remains was unauthorized and wrote a letter saying it considered the remains to be stolen. WSAV's Joanne Merrigan has spent the day sorting this out for us, and she joins us now with the new developments.
That is right, Ben. The 300-year-old bone fragments of Casimir Pulaski are at the center of a modern-day disagreement. The question is who controlled the samples. Well, the city says it did. We did hear from someone else who said that's not accurate. What we do know is that a letter dated earlier this month said his remains were removed from the GBI crime lab in Savannah without the city's permission.
This is Pulaski, and so now we have to figure out how we interpret what's going on with these remains.
Last month, anthropology professor Dr. Virginia Hutton Estabrook told us bone samples provided a key to DNA evidence regarding Casimir Pulaski. On May 1st, the city wrote Estabrook a letter saying she directed unauthorized testing of the Pulaski DNA samples and demanded that the samples be returned. It said 3 samples were deposited by the city at the GBI crime lab in March of 2012 for long-term storage, but that Dr. Jamie Downs, who worked at the crime lab, did not follow proper protocols and removed the samples without notifying the GBI or the city. It called the items stolen city property. The GBI sent the city a response stating it takes seriously the proper handling, security, and documentation of evidence, but in this case, it does not appear those procedures were followed. It said Downs had not worked at the lab since 2016. Dr. Downs is a well-known and respected local pathologist, and his attorney told us Downs did nothing wrong and that the city actually had nothing to do with these samples. The attorney said in 2017 that permission had been given by the coordinator of the Pulaski Identification Committee to provide the samples to the professor. Finally, he said it was outrageous that Downs would be named as not having followed protocol and said a long timeline of events indicated the samples had been preserved and handled correctly. The city, however, still disagrees, saying it was left out of the loop in terms of the samples and the testing. And a city spokesman told us this afternoon the samples have been returned and they're satisfied at this point. We also heard from Georgia Southern, who said as soon as they were told there were any issues, they made immediate steps to give back the samples. By the way, it seems this was never about the surprising results of the DNA testing, namely that Pulaski may have been intersex. It was about the DNA samples and who controlled them. Joanne Merrigan, WSAV News 3.